So, Damon, just so I'm on the same page, Hawaii is a better football team than NAU, right?
NAU's ranked in the FCS rankings, Kevin. I don't know if you've heard that. Welcome on in, everybody, to the AZ Wildcats podcast, live from Studio K, presented by our friends at Circle K. I am Damon Fairall, Damon Dog, and that is my guy, Kevin Thomas, otherwise known as Kevo Posts, on the fine Twitter streets. We are the AZ Wildcats podcast, and we are here in downtown Phoenix, PHNX HQ 3. And the Arizona Wildcats are undefeated this season, Kevin. How are we living on a Victory Tuesday? Typically, I think we're going to be getting used to a little bit of a Victory Monday type of feel, but Victory Tuesday today after a fine Labor Day weekend.
Happy belated Labor Day weekend to all those out there that celebrated. I had a good weekend. I hope you did as well, Damon. Part of that good weekend was spending Saturday night with you fine people talking about an Arizona Wildcats victory over the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors and Micah Alihado. And, you know, Damon, I think that we were all very happy with the way that Arizona looked on Saturday. We were happy with the way the offense was looking, albeit not fully staffed.
Yeah.
And we were happy with the way the defense was looking, albeit not perfect throughout the game. But there are some people in this great state that, you know, aren't so happy with their football program. But also, you know, don't tell them they're not going to win the national title, because they will tell you that it was just a bump on the road to the Natty. And we're going to get into that in our power ranking segment here coming up, Damon.
But it wasn't even a bump in the road, Kevin. As I established in our cold open, NAU is a powerhouse football program.
Yeah, hell of a program over there. Do the Lumberjacks have?
That hit the like was at you, Tom. I'm yelling it. All caps means I'm screaming.
Yeah, screaming at Tom to hit the like, because we know he would never do that.
No,
he's not. Tom probably the first one in the chat to hit the like every day. But
100%.
if you haven't done that, if you're not like, you know, my grandpa, the great Tom Lemke, please do leave a like on this stream. We're going to be going through our power rankings today. We also have hot takes from Wildcat fans just like you about this Arizona Wildcats football program. And I think due to the time that it is going to take, Damon, I think we should, without further ado, get right into our Big 12 power rankings. I do, yes. And we did our preseason polls, which I'm not too happy to be pulling these up. But I'm going to pull it up for the sake of the stream.
Good Lord, look at mine. The top two teams on my preseason poll look like complete and utter garbage, to put it lightly.
Yeah,
Baylor, you know, just gets worked by Auburn. I had high hopes for Baylor. I had high hopes for Sawyer Robertson and that offense. They lose in the first game by, you know, and they kind of get their asses handed to them by a not very good Auburn team. Or at least a team in Auburn that a lot of people don't expect will be great. And then Kansas State continues to struggle, Kevin. I mean, you look at this weekend, 38-35 victory. Avery Johnson kind of had to throw like a last-minute touchdown to get the W against North Dakota. And that's who, of course, the Arizona Wildcats have on the horizon in week 3 here, which will, you know, I think could potentially be a huge W and program-defining type of W for Brent Brennan and this team. We will find out in the future. Of course, we have Weber State in the horizon first, and you don't want to just get ahead of yourself. Obviously, Arizona is, you know, they're probably going to beat Weber State and probably going to do so by a pretty, you know, handily margin, but you got to take every opponent seriously. And Kansas State didn't do that this weekend because North Dakota almost got the job done. Another team that is tied with NAU in the rankings. I don't know if, or not tied, just below actually. NAU is 19th. North Dakota is 22nd in the FCS rankings there, Kevin.
So that is the bar to be better than.
Correct. I mean, that's what an elite program looks like.
Facts. And, I only bring up the preseason polls, and here I'll put mine up as well to give a base reference point for where me and Damon are moving these teams after, I guess, week 0. So I guess 2 weeks of football, but really, 1 true week of a full slate of football, Damon. And I'll go ahead and start with mine. This is my updated week 1 power ranking, and I'll go through this somewhat quickly. Iowa State at number 1. I have Iowa State at number 1 because they've been the most reliable performer out of anybody in the Big 12 thus far. Put belt to ass on K-State in Dublin. It was a sloppy, nasty game, but they did come out on top, and they looked, for traveling as far as they did, they looked pretty good in that Dublin game, albeit very sloppy. And then the big catch is when you fly back from Dublin. What do you look like after that? They looked pretty good, Damon. 55-7 W over South Dakota. Looked like they never even took the trip across the pond. And for that, Iowa State gets my number 1 ranking. Number 2, we might be surprised to see the Utah Utes here. They had maybe the best performance out of anybody in the Big 12, defeating UCLA. And Devin Dampier. I mean, he looked every bit the dual threat that he was advertised coming into Kyle Whittingham's system with the offensive coordinator that was coming with him from New Mexico. And the new offense looked like it was a positive change of pace for the Utes, who really handled the Bruins of UCLA. Moving on to number 3. TCU, go Frogs. They defeated UNC in Bill Belichick's debut, ruining Jordan Hudson's weekend. She had an outfit picked for Victory Tuesday, I should say. They played last night. Victory Tuesday, I should say. But TCU looked really good. Hoover looked every bit the quarterback that some of these other quarterbacks were supposed to be coming into this year. Hoover seems to have taken that next step, albeit against the UNC team that might not be any good at all. Time will tell. But Hoover looked Sunday good yesterday. And the wide receivers looked capable, if not dangerous. So for that, TCU is in my 3rd slot. Texas Tech falls to number 4 after coming in at number 1 in my preseason poll. The 67-7 whooping of Arkansas Pine Bluff, was good enough, but the loss of their running back in the preseason and Baron Morton picking up a knock to his leg, even though x-rays came back negative, has them dropping in my power rankings. Baylor comes in at number 5. We all know why. Awful run defense. They lose to Auburn at home in a game that they had every right to be in and potentially win. Baylor was not able to pull it off. Run defense still looked really bad. That was an area that you thought Dave Aranda would be able to clean up this upcoming year. Although you played a super tough SEC team, you did lose at home. So that keeps you in the top 5, but hanging on at number 5. Number 6, the Kansas Jayhawks. Jalen Daniels seems to be back. They've outscored opponents 77-14 in their first 2 games. And I think that heading into this rivalry matchup with Mizzou, M-I-Z-Z-O-U, this upcoming weekend, Kansas looks very dangerous and could knock off an SEC team this upcoming weekend.
Absolutely.
And now, let's just talk about it. Number 7, number 8. This was a minor point of contention in my rankings, Damon. I have the Arizona Wildcats at number 7. I have the Arizona State Sun Devils at number 8. Now, this is not a qualitative, definitive, if they played today, Arizona would beat ASU. You never know. But I wouldn't necessarily predict that right now today. However, it's week 1, and these are power rankings. So the way I was looking at it was, what have you done for me lately? What are the performances that you have put in so far from week 0 to today, Tuesday, September 2nd, that I can judge? And that's where you're going to fall on this list. Now, ASU, they beat NAU. Plaudits. They beat them. They escaped. But
escaped.
Okay, you're right. They whooped them. Sam Levitt looked every bit the Heisman candidate with the dual threat abilities. I know I said Devin Dampier was a dual threat, but no one's ever seen a dual threat like Sam Levitt. He was out there running, passing. You saw that catch from Jordan Tyson? I mean, it's insane. The connection there, you'd almost forget that they struggled against NAU and barely beat the Lumberjacks. And that is why I have them at 8. Because
it reminds me of a team last year that may or may not have suited up against a inferior opponent and was led by the tune of its quarterback and its star number 1 in college football wide receiver. And I mean, their season ended swimmingly, I'm pretty sure, right?
No, yeah.
I'm thinking of Tyrone McMillan, Noah Fifita versus New Mexico last season in 2024, where both those guys looked unbelievable. The team didn't look very good in the process. We still won by more points against New Mexico than ASU did against NAU, of course.
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah.
They only won by 19 against Northern Arizona. But it's giving me flashbacks to a team that just they met all expectations, right?
So true.
Right?
I mean, Tedero McMillan's final year at Arizona was that of a storybook ending. And I mean,
I got
Alec,
my cowbell swinging, Alec.
Facts.
Swinging.
Facts. All the way
week.
Until the cows come home. But no, like I was like, the real reasoning for why I have ASU one spot, not drastically lower, it's close, than Arizona is because Arizona defeated the better team in more decisive fashion, and they looked better doing it, right? Seth Doege's offense looked smooth, albeit for the first time out there.
With a lot of people out.
Exactly. You did not have a fully staffed wide receiver core either, and they still looked pretty versatile. You had freshmen stepping up, making some really impressive catches. The running back room looked about as deep as it was dangerous, and it was damn dangerous on Saturday. And then the defense absolutely shut the door in the second half against Hawaii at home. They handled business. And now, am I saying that Arizona is going to be ranked higher than ASU come next Monday when we do this poll? Who knows? Probably not, right? But after this past weekend, I feel like, and this is where people, if you do power rankings differently than I do it, you're going to disagree vehemently. But I really feel like there's no way you can say that Arizona's performance was not better than Arizona State's performance. They eked out a W against NAU, 12 penalties for 93 yards against, 21 first downs for ASU, 20 for NAU. 1 for 10 on third downs was the Sun Devils against the Lumberjacks, and they won only by 19 points. So it's like they won the game almost by 3 touchdowns. They survived. What matters most is the green stripe, is the 1-0, is the victory. But their performance was inferior to Arizona's performance. Fact. They could come up and beat an SEC team this upcoming Saturday, and Arizona could beat up on Weber State. And who knows? I might have them flip-flop depending upon those two performances, because now we're going to have more to work with. But for that reason, Damon, ASU does come in at 8 under the Arizona Wildcats in my power rankings. And then to wrap up the second half really quickly.
Arizona Wildcats.
Y'all sleeping on those Arizona Wildcats. Shout out to Big E. I have Colorado at number 9. Caden Salter looked pretty dangerous at points, but I think
moved Colorado up and BYU down.
Well, I'm getting.
I didn't even notice this when I saw it pre-show.
Let me check real quick. I think this is a result of where I had them in the preseason poll. Yes, because Arizona moved up, and I think that moved BYU. I don't know how the math worked on this, but hold on.
I mean, I think here's what I'll say, and we'll get to it obviously when I talk about Colorado. I think Georgia Tech is a good team.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that Colorado's season is over. I just think that if we're going based off of the same logic that you just used on ASU, I don't see how you could have BYU, who just won by 70 points, flip below Colorado necessarily.
Let me break it down. I feel like I have Colorado where I have them because and now let me explain my point fully here. They were all the way in that game against a very, very serviceable, competitive, all might be very good Georgia Tech team that's going to be competitive in the ACC this upcoming year. You could argue they only lost that game due to poor time management, and now that is where I have not moved them any higher than I had them. Pre-show, I had them at 11, and I moved them to 9 because I was less convinced in Cincinnati against Nebraska than I was Colorado against Georgia Tech. I feel like Colorado's issues were the same stuff that plagued them last year, like ending the game with 2 timeouts in your pocket. That cannot happen again, right? But I think that you have a quarterback in Caden Salter that showed a lot of promise in that game. Juju Lewis will play next week, and Salter will start. I think, like I said, the time management was really poor, and I think they played a very good team in Georgia Tech and were very competitive in that game. And I think that BYU, while Bear Bachmeier looked secretly really, really good, he was playing against Portland State, and they were not asking him to do much of anything. And so I think that BYU, they did technically move down, but I think they stayed within 1 point or 1 placement of where I had them preseason. And yeah, I just want to see more from BYU. They didn't really have to pull too much out of their bag against Portland State.
No,
they whooped on them. They handled business, but that really didn't show me much, and that's not really a knock on them, but it's just the way that their schedule worked. Number 11, Cincinnati.
I believe at Portland State, same conference as the Northern Arizona Lumberjacks, by the way, in case you were wondering.
I mean, that's the Football Conference of America, Damon. I don't know.
Big Sky it just means more. I'm pretty sure that's the saying there.
It just means so much more. Wrapping this up, number 11, Cincinnati. They lost to Nebraska. K-State, do we really have to harp on this? Sloppy lost to Iowa State. They literally tried to lose against North Dakota, only beating them by 3. And then Avery Johnson looks pretty much the same guy as last year, if not a little bit worse than he was last season. Rich Rod and West Virginia coming in at number 13 on my power rankings. I feel like Rich Rod has injected a little bit of life into this program. Nico Marichal and Jaheim White looked very good this past weekend, and they face Houston this upcoming week, who comes in at number 14 on my list. And I think that West Virginia could get the better of Houston in this matchup. However, Connor Weigman looked decent in his Houston debut there. 27-0 win over Stephen F. Austin does not really impress me very much, though.
Stephen F. Austin also in the 20s on the FCS rankings versus in relation to NAU, in case anyone was wondering.
In relation to the most elite FCS program possible.
Well, they shut out a team that was. I was told that that's not possible. They shut out a team that's in the FCS rankings.
Oh yeah, no, 1,000%. Only the elite of the elite do that.
So Houston.
Yeah, Houston, who came in at 14 on my list, however. I must be a fool, not ball knowing anything. But like I said, 27-0 win over Stephen F. Austin does not really inspire me very much. That is also a quarterback situation that I am willing to monitor. There are a lot of those, and I want to talk about that at the end of the show. For being a quarterback conference, there are a lot of quarterback discussions that are more up in the air than we're giving it credit for in the Big 12. And, Houston, albeit not really a fight or a quarterback battle, but you have Keyshawn Henderson coming in next year. So this is lame duck in a way, right? So something to monitor there. And then you have Oklahoma State and UCF rounding out my power rankings here.
Stinker programs, dude.
I mean, UCF, they barely beat Jacksonville State. Cam Fancher goes down with a back and a leg injury. Taven Jackson comes in, looks pretty decent, but ultimately you kind of only beat Jacksonville State by 7. And for that reason, you are the worst team in the conference this week.
I think it's very fair, Kevin. Love your rankings. Think that they're, quite astute and obviously, a little bit of. I think you genuinely believe it. You're not like our PHNX Sun Devils guys where you'll just make up opinions to take shots at the opposing fan base. But I do not agree. We'll talk about my power rankings and more on the other side of this break on the ASU Wildcats podcast.
I mean, does it get more professional of a transition than that?
Just a little tease for the people.
Because I'm talking about our friends over at Rally House. And if you feel extra confident about the Arizona Wildcats after this big dub, statement victory, shout out to you, Chad, over Hawaii this past weekend, Rally House is the best spot to load up on your last-minute bandwagon memorabilia or your, lifelong diehard memorabilia. Whatever it is, Rally House has your flavors because they literally have tens of thousands of options. I'm talking 39 pages, I believe it is, for Arizona Wildcats gear. So if you want to spend a good hour, 2 hours of your life, online shopping, Rally House is the way to do it, but you don't just have to do it online. They also have brick and mortar locations, what they call it these days. Almost forgot the word, thanks to the good old internet. But Tempe, Mesa, and Glendale, you can also check out Rally House's in-person location. So if you have not checked out Rally House for your game day needs, hats, coasters, jerseys, shirzies, keychains, dog collars, Rally House has it all. Find your local Rally House location and shop their entire product assortment online at www.rallyhouse.com. Honestly, right now in another window while this show is playing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of the internet.
The beauty.
A couple tabs. Here's another tab. BrandonBills.com, Kevin, because our promo code of BBPHNX is going to get you 15% off the ultimate custom premium headwear and apparel in the entire business. And if it's not just, a small business or something like a charity or some sort of organization that you're just trying to support with some custom apparel, check out the campus collection because there are not any better Arizona Wildcats hats out there in the business than what's going on over at BrandonBills.com and just what they have cooking at Brandon Bills in their Mesa location in general. They're a local company. They love U of A. They put a lot of effort into their Arizona Wildcats apparel. They've completely taken over Tucson. If you go down, I'm sure, obviously Kevin and I, unfortunately, do not have the ability to just go down for every single football game as much as we would want to. But if we were there, Kevin, we would have been seeing nothing but Brandon Bills hats out there at Arizona Stadium because I know last year from going, that's all I was seeing out there. They're selling it in the bookstores. They got their own special, custom, special limited edition type stuff that you can only find at the bookstores and at Arizona sporting events rather than on their website. Check it out now, guys. Please do. BBPHNX, 15% off that first order. Head to BrandonBills.com and use promo code of BBPHNX for 15% off your first order. Love Brandon Bills. Love our friends at Brandon Bills.
Love them so damn much. I can't get enough of the Brandon Bills. Most comfortable hat you'll ever wear on your head.
Just
so
good
comfortable you
people.
forget you're wearing it.
Nothing but good people.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. And well, Damon, I know that my power rankings kind of stirred up a little bit of controversy with the 7 and 8 spot. Shall we get into yours?
Let's go ahead and do it, Kevin. As we get into my power rankings and into maybe to someone like Chad's pleasure here, I did not pull a Kevin and put Arizona State above or Arizona above Arizona State here.
Although he should have.
Although maybe I should have. But I do think I'm having a great time with this whole NAU thing. I love taking shots. Obviously, every ASU fan predicted 100-20 was going to be the final score, and we didn't get anywhere close to that. But Iowa State's number one for me. They have the most impressive win in the entire conference, given that it is the only conference win thus far, and it was against a team that had a lot of expectations in Kansas State. So they're number one for me. Number two, Utah. You got to give them a lot of credit. I've been low on Utah all offseason, Kevin. They beat the garbage out of UCLA, and Devin Dampier looked unbelievable in doing so. Whether he was passing for over 200 yards, rushing for 100, scoring a bunch of touchdowns, Utah's defense looks back. I think Utah's going to be a really good team this year. TCU, I mean, it's kind of similar. I think Utah and UCLA are it's almost like a lot of these teams that I group together here, Kevin, are in similar tiers for me. So it's like this Utah TCU tier is like, I'm sitting here going, is North Carolina and UCLA, are those just awful football teams? Or are these Utah and TCU teams flat out really good? It's probably a mixture of the two, right? I think you got to give TCU a lot of credit for going on the road, similar to Utah, in a hostile environment week one and just kind of putting it on a team. I'm going to stick ASU at 4 still. I don't think the sky is falling for ASU, and here's why. I think that, obviously sloppy week one, but a lot of the other teams in this conference that you went into the season thinking to yourself, like, these are the top contenders in the Big 12, they haven't looked good at all. Baylor looked bad. BYU lost their QB at last minute. Kansas State has looked putrid, and ASU, disappointing week one result, but I still think they have all the pieces and tools to potentially win this conference here, and that's why I'm not dropping them down too much. I have them from 3 in my preseason poll, just down to 4 here after one disappointing showing. I'm keeping Texas Tech despite a 70-point win almost against Arkansas Pine Bluff at 5. Don't really care. Baron Morton got hurt in that game. Also, Kevin, put me back on screen for a second. Did you see that tweet I tweeted about last week? Baron Morton, 1 meal rest of his life. What do you think he chose?
No, I didn't see any of this. What did he choose?
What do you think he chose?
I mean, you're asking me, so I feel like it's crazy. Maybe like oats and
blueberries?
blueberries?
Filet mignon was his coach's. I think he'd probably choose a filet. What do you think he chose?
Yeah, I'm going to say oats and blueberries.
He chose his mom's meatloaf.
Ma, more meatloaf.
Dude, I don't care. I'm not like hating on meatloaf as an entity, as an organization, but Kevin, rest of your entire life, you're choosing mom's meatloaf?
Yeah,
that right there, I can't win with that quarterback. Texas Tech's at 5 in my rankings. I cannot win with that quarterback. Guy just doesn't know a lick of ball.
What movie was that? Wedding Crashers?
I think so. Yeah, that's
more meatloaf.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, like, that's hilarious, and I love that, and I think of Eli Manning doing it on the Manning cast, Mom, more meatloaf, talking about Peyton and stuff from the basement. That's awesome and all great, but in reality, eating meatloaf every day of my life for the rest of my life,
it sounds like hell on earth.
I was going to say, it sounds like my own personal slice of hell, just, slicing off a piece of meat, literally meat loaf. It's just a loaf of meat.
Kevin, 3 days into the all meatloaf for the rest of my life experience, I'd be like,
Hunger strike.
I'd be like, I don't know if it's worth it anymore. I think I might just, I think I might just call it quits. I think I might just ride off into the sunset here.
I mean, Kobe's given up alcohol for the sake of the Arizona Wildcats, and I love my Arizona Wildcats. I don't know if I can go only meatloaf for the sake of my Wildcats.
God, no.
If I had to go only meatloaf or the Arizona Wildcats don't win a football game, I'm sorry, Brent Brennan. You might have to be finding a new job. You know what I mean? Because I'm not eating only meatloaf for the sake of anything.
Yeah.
At all, ever.
I could maybe do it for one season of glory and then be like, sorry, guys, that's all I got in me.
That's really realistically.
I got one season of meatloaf in me. But I got to say, also, can you imagine how bad you'd feel after just like your meatloaf sweats every day? Just, nothing about that is appealing. You can't win with a quarterback like that. That's why Texas Tech doesn't go anywhere for me. They stay at 5. They're not a contender. Baron Morton is a scrub. I got Kansas moving up here at 6. I really believe in Jalen Daniels, Kevin. I really believe in how good he looks right now. I know they beat Wagner, and it's like, really, who cares? But they had a good week 1 showing against, or week 0 showing against Fresno State. I think Jalen Daniels, I think Kansas are picking up where they left off of last season, where they were playing some really good ball down the stretch. And so that's why I have them in the upper echelon here. Like, that's a team to me where it's like, if they play like how they've played at the back end of last season into the start of this season, they're like a dark horse Big 12 contender. Because it could very easily be a situation like last year where there's a 4-way tie of 9-3 teams and they're one of them and they just happen to win the tiebreaker. So I think Kansas is really good. BYU, I'm moving up solely because they had just such a dominant performance. I know Portland State sucks and we took Quincy Craig and they might as well just disband the football program at that point because, I mean, we have Quincy Craig on our team, but I feel like BYU is, they've proven that they have the pieces to win. It's really just going to be a lot on Bear Bachmeier and how he looks. And that's kind of, speaking of the tiers I had here, Kevin, that's Texas Tech, Kansas, BYU, 3 teams that beat the garbage out of bad opponents, all right in the same section for me right there. Then I have Baylor, who had a very disappointing week 1 at home, lost to Auburn. You got to move down from that. I moved them down from 1 to 8. I think maybe that they could still pick up this season and right some wrongs here, fix some things, but it wasn't as much the loss for me. It'd be fine if they lost, Kevin. It's the way that they looked in the loss. They were never really in the game. They were getting dominated by Auburn pretty much the entire time. And that's why Baylor has to fall a decent portion for me. I still think that I have them above Arizona, despite, U of A like actually looking good and Baylor looking like trash, because my thought process in these power rankings, and Kevin and I have a little bit of a different one, is I'm doing this based off of who I think would win in a neutral site football game, essentially.
You're doing like a pound for pound.
And I still think Baylor is better than Arizona if they played each other. I just think that was a rough week 1. I do agree, though, that Arizona looked better in their week 1 game, albeit against a much worse opponent. I got the Cats moving up, though.
Real quick,
yeah,
on Baylor, I wanted to ask pick your mind on this. Like, I'm of the inclination that Baylor's going to be okay, that they're still going to be good in the Big 12.
Yeah,
and
me too.
This could be an early season learning experience for them, and they could take this with them into Big 12 play and be just fine.
And Jackson Arnold looked really good,
He did.
Fair.
And that new offense looked really good as well, a lot better than expected. And maybe that's part of the reason why the defense looked so porous. But, Damon, I feel a certain way about Baylor, like the defensive line and the run game being like the main point of investment for them over the offseason, and then getting just torched in the first chance you get to showcase your new toys. And that is what gives me worry for Baylor, as opposed to like if this happened in the middle of the season, I'm like, well, you get caught, stuff happens. But you had the whole offseason to prepare this run game. You had the whole offseason. Well, I guess you had the whole second half of the summer to prepare for Auburn and what they're going to bring to the table.
100%.
And it looked really, really porous on defense. And so are you worried at all that Baylor might not be as okay as we think they are right now?
I think, and it's funny because like I said, it reminded me of a conversation about the New Mexico game last year of like, well, we have no Fifita and T-Mac. This team's not going to be that bad. Like, and obviously it ended up being pretty damn bad. But I think Baylor has a high enough floor because of their quarterback situation where they're not going to be a bad team. But yeah, I do think that it's very possible that their defense severely limits the ceiling in which that this team can have.
And that kind of puts Dave Aranda in a box at the end of the year.
Totally.
In a way. So yeah, no. Moving on with the rest of your power rankings.
Thinking Dave Aranda hot seat last season. He ended up having a pretty good end of the season, and then obviously Baylor had a lot of hype. Yours truly very much involved in said hype, and just a disaster start for Baylor in week 1. But moving on here, Kevin, I do have the Wildcats at number 9, up a couple spots from my original number 11 ranking that I believe I had Arizona at. I think we just saw exactly what we needed to see out of this football team this weekend. Competent coaching, beating an inferior opponent and not really making it close, not leaving any room for doubt, and doing so without a lot of key pieces on offense, whether it's Rhino Tapatotai or whether it's, not that he wasn't available, but Ishmael Mahdi barely did anything. Chris Hudson, Chris Hunter, Kean Burnett, like you name it, man, the list goes on. The offense didn't have everything at its disposal. Still looked good enough. Still was easy enough, even though it wasn't like fireworks. I don't think like the final score line necessarily suggested. And I liked what I saw out of the defense too. They were disciplined. I think that the second half was fantastic. The first half was a lot of like open crossing routes. I thought that could be cleaned up. A lot of like underneath stuff, which those are hard routes to cover, to be fair, because you don't want to give up anything over top. So you want to keep stuff within 10 yards. I thought Hawaii got a little bit too much short yardage type of throws, especially early on in that first half. Way too easy. And then that run game was, I know that we were very much not stacking the box and allowing them to run and daring them to run, but that's a bad run game that Hawaii has, and Arizona made them look decent. So those are a couple things I'm going to be keyed in on, but I liked what I saw in week 1 out of the Wildcats.
Got to. It was truly them, and we talked about this, all offseason. And I know that our guy Chad in the chat, kind of was laughing at the idea of us calling it a statement victory over Hawaii. Now, it wasn't a statement victory in the more normative sense of they showed the country that they can compete and they're going to, go and compete for this and that and the third. It was more of a statement to Damon and me and the people,
the fans,
the other people in this chat, right?
Yeah.
The people at home on their couches watching, the people that renewed their season tickets this upcoming year, right? It was more of a statement to them. And that's why I said it was a statement victory, because all offseason the talk was 2024 actually who Brent Brennan is, or are we in for a slight turnaround?
Yeah.
And it seems like they're paying us back on our expectations, albeit only one game. You can go out there and play well against Weber State, and then you can get belt to ass against K-State, and then we're singing a different tune. But the early inclinations is that they're not going to get whooped on by K-State, and I think that is a huge statement to the fans that this year the football is going to look fun, they're going to be competitive, and they're going to play their tails off every single night.
And that's what gets them right in the middle of the Big 12.
Correct. And so, yeah, it's not like a super big statement victory in the traditional sense of Florida State beating Alabama. That was a statement win for Florida State and Tommy Castellanos.
Yeah.
But this was a statement win to everybody in the Freedom State of Arizona that maybe did not know what exactly Brent Brennan had in tail for this season. So, yeah, it wasn't a statement win that maybe Chad and the chat wanted, but it's a statement win that I think Arizona fans needed to hear the most.
I mean, it wasn't the statement win that beating the number 19 FCS team in the country, the Northern Arizona Lumberjacks, would have
Hell
been.
of a program they got, dude.
I mean, that's why. I mean, that's what Chad wants to hear, is that Sam Levitt, 80 yards to the house. That's a statement on no one's television, because you're playing NAU week 1 and no one cares, and so ESPN doesn't even put their proper broadcasting equipment out there.
I'm so happy the UFC is off that platform.
Yeah.
So
brutal.
genuinely happy.
It's brutal. I just, it isn't a statement win in terms of the national landscape, Kevin, like you're saying. It's a statement win for this fan base, just that Arizona's ready to play competent football in 2025, and that they're not going to roll over for every half-decent team that they play. And I think that's, as Arizona fans, you have to, put your hat on that and say that, that's what looking up looks like after last year's disaster. That's, like I said, why I have Arizona right in the middle at 9 in these power rankings. Moving forward, I have Houston at 10, bumping them up a couple spots after a shutout win against Stephen F. Austin. As you said, Connor Weigman looked decent, no turnovers. Obviously, Houston controlled that game start to finish, but wasn't exactly lighting the scoreboard on fire either. So I think Houston still has a lot to prove, but I know a lot of people are really high on what Willie Fritz has got going on in Houston. I think it's very possible Houston is better than Arizona. But again, you beat Hawaii by more points than they beat Stephen F. Austin. I think you have to give some credence to an FBS opponent in that landscape and just count that win as a little bit more.
No, yeah, I'm with you. And I think that what Houston has done is and this is less about the power rankings and more about the direction of that program. And we talked about this when we did our state of the program rankings, which is not our preseason poll, but we were talking about Houston in terms of what they're trying to build and how this year might not be the year, but it could be a foundational building block kind of year to get you to the next thing, which is a Keyshawn Henderson and what kind of pieces you can put around him for next season and those seasons going forward. So yeah, I like what you're putting down for Houston here, Damon.
Now I'm going Kansas State, and they see the biggest fall for me in this entire power rankings.
PU.
From 2 to 11 through 2 weeks, Kevin. That's what happens when you go to Ireland. You show zero signs that you can be a competent offense, and then you need Avery Johnson hero ball to save you versus North Dakota just a week later. North Dakota, another school that finds themselves in the top 25 of the FCS rankings. So legit program. You have to take that very seriously. But yeah, needed Avery Johnson, kind of hero ball at the end there to win that game, and you got to get punished for it. So you go down in the rankings. You guys have looked like crap. I think Arizona is, I'm not sitting here being like U of A is going to beat Kansas State in 2 weeks, but I definitely feel a lot better about that game right now than I did at the start of the season, Kevin, because Kansas State has not shown that they are any bit better than they were last season. In fact, they've probably shown that they're worse from last season, and Arizona's looked a little bit better, despite it being only 1 week. I think this Kansas State game could be so pivotal in terms of Arizona making a bowl game. And, I truly do feel a lot more confident about it than I did.
Look, K-State, like if we're talking about biggest disappointment so far early through about 2.5 weeks of college football,
they got to be up there.
It's K-State, and I don't necessarily know who else is in the running.
Bama, maybe?
I was about to say maybe in Alabama.
North Carolina looked pretty damn bad on national television.
Yes, that's true. But like realistically, how high were North Carolina's expectations?
I think about 6
within
wins,
reason.
Right? But they look awful.
They did look really bad. They looked about 4 wins.
There's scales to it, obviously.
And, Sam Albert says this in the chat, and I made this joke a couple shows ago when we were talking about K-State, but that was before the North Dakota game where they struggled. Yeah. Like, they kind of look like they missed Trey Spivey. And I'm not even saying that they need Trey Spivey, like, exactly who he is, but, like, they kind of look like they're missing a huge playmaker who can just go up and get a ball when you need someone to go up and get a ball.
Yeah.
They don't have that right now. And I know that they have Jace Brown, who is a very good playmaker, downfield, deep threat, but I don't know. K-State, I'm really worried about them. Like, I actually am. I think that what is going on at K-State right now, I don't know if it's like something that you can just roll out of bed, try harder, and it's going to be fixed. I feel like there's something missing from that roster this year. Time will tell whether or not maybe Avery Johnson is just playing into form and he's going to turn it up and become the Heisman candidate and the Big 12 Player of the Year candidate that K-State fans think that he could be at his best. But for right now, like, they are, crazy to say, one of the worst teams in the conference right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I was trying to see if I could find maybe a spread on the Arizona versus Kansas State game if they're gonna have any sort of potential number already out, but there is not. So unfortunately, I couldn't find that. What do you think if we had to guess that line right now? What do you think Arizona and Kansas State spread would be? Arizona being at home.
I was actually thinking about it as you said it. K-State minus 5.5.
I think less.
Really?
I think K-State minus 2.5 or 3.5.
Ooh, I see. I thought I was like, maybe this is crazy, only giving them less than a tud, but they've been bad.
I don't know how into betting everybody is here in the chat, but yes, as Sam did, please leave your idea of what you think the Kansas State Arizona line in 2 weeks will be, because I don't know, man. I think it's going to be, I know that you give about 3 points based off of who's home team.
Yeah.
So I think on a neutral site, Kevin, like I say 2.5, Sam says 2.5, you say 5.5. On a neutral site, I think that that's very much around what the number would be. I think that in Tucson that we're looking at a better number there, but Kobe says 4.5. I think anywhere in the realm that we've picked here, 2.5 to like 5.5 is like a good number. But that'll be really interesting to see when it comes out. Just kind of rounding out these rankings here, and we don't have to talk about all these teams all that much more, but here's another kind of tier ranking here, Kevin, between Colorado and Cincinnati. Two teams that lost close games against, power conference teams, but didn't necessarily look all that great in doing so. Colorado could have won the game, you're right. But I just think you got to move them down after, they played at home. If this game wasn't at Folsom Field, I think I'd take a little bit less stock into the loss. Like if, say, it was in Atlanta, I'd be like, that's fine. Like I get it. You lose in Atlanta to a pretty good team. You lose in a packed out Folsom Field after you score on the opening drive and you have a lead. Like I really think Colorado should have won that game.
To add on to your
big
point,
miss for them. As a team that has like a 5.5 over under total for wins this season, it's a big loss.
To add to your point, Damon, the home field advantage of it all, and the more we talk about it, the more I think about Colorado and Cincinnati and where they are on my list and all that, whether or not I would change that, but I'm locked in. But my point is, to back you up further, being at home and having time management issues on the final drive being the reason you lose. Like, even if you're on the road and it's raucous in Atlanta and Georgia Tech, and you just forget you have 2 timeouts, unacceptable, but we can maybe explain it away. But like at Folsom Field, like you're not supposed to have those problems. They're supposed to go the other way. And so, yeah, to back you up on that one, like I almost think I'm wrong flat out for the way I rated Colorado. But
I think if you just had BYU and Colorado flipped,
yes,
that would have been perfectly fine with your list. But yeah, I think Colorado got to move them down a little bit. Very winnable game for Arizona later on in the season. Although I think that, like this like Baylor to maybe even BYU to like Cincinnati tier is so jumbled up, Kevin. Like I could see that those teams very much being in any kind of order there. I think that like I like these top 6 teams a little better than everybody else. BYU maybe a little bit, but the rest of the like 8 to 13 is like really we're splitting hairs here to the ultimate degree. I'm going Cincinnati 13, lost to Nebraska, could have won that game at home, or it was on neutral side actually. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce in the crowd.
Arrowhead Field.
Yeah. They like Nebraska, I don't think is good. I don't think Cincinnati's necessarily bad either. I think that they could totally pick up this season and be better than where I have them here at 13. But like I said, that's kind of like these bottom 3 are for sure my bottom 3. West Virginia, don't care that they beat Robert Morris. I think they might be a little bit better than Oklahoma State, though, as I initially did not think. Oklahoma State lost their quarterback, I believe, right? And I almost am preemptively putting them at 15 because they're going to lose by 100 to Oregon this weekend at Autzen. I mean, that's going to be like bad. Like they might need to call that game off for health reasons at some point.
I feel bad for OK State fans, or I really do, because
they were so consistent for so long.
Yeah, and then last year was supposed to be better than it was, and Ollie Gordon was pretty mid last year.
True, they did have like the best running back in college football going into the year, and just like did nothing with it.
And then this year you have Haas Haney coming in, all freaking sick name, by the way, Haas Haney coming in. He looked really, really good in the small portion of game that he did play. I think like 95 yards and a touchdown on pretty decent efficiency. And then he broke his damn foot. And now you have Flores, I believe is his name, coming in. And it's hard to evaluate a player coming in for a guy who you've game planned around all offseason, and it's week 1 and he breaks his freaking foot.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's a sprained ankle. Maybe he walks it off and is back in a quarter. Like he's out for 5 weeks, 5 or more weeks. And so what's going on with Oklahoma State? I don't know. And again, I want to talk about this at the end of the show. Like the quarterback situation in the Big 12 is like really interesting, because just weeks ago, you and I and everybody in the Big 12 media were saying, this is the quarterback conference. We have elite quarterback after elite quarterback after elite quarterback after a good quarterback after a really good quarterback. And now it's like the top half is like you got like 3 real dudes probably. I don't know. I haven't mapped it out myself, but like, and then there's a lot of like competing situations and guys that are kind of lame ducks, and maybe they could do good and maybe they won't do good, like Connor Weigman, for example. And yeah, it's a really interesting conference from the quarterback position.
Absolutely. I think right now, like in terms of quarterbacks, the guys I'd put at the top, you got to say Sam Levitt, I think, Josh Hoover, Jalen Daniels, and then I'd probably say Devin Dampier deserves it after his week 1 performance, and that would kind of be my top.
Rocco Becht's probably next.
He'd probably be my next guy, and then I'd probably put Fifita right under him.
Yeah, so you have a really, really great top half, but there are so many guys that we didn't name that really could make a name for themselves to get into that top
like
half.
Sawyer Robertson,
yeah,
like Bear Bachmeier, honestly, if he has a good season. Connor Weigman, I know, has high expectations. Obviously, Avery Johnson, who everybody, kind of crowned preemptively.
And look, I do want to mention Bear Bachmeier just a little bit, because I know he played Portland State, and I know that it was 69-0, nice, but he looked really versatile in that performance. Like he was showcasing a little bit of different arm angles, running it, passing it, showing a little bit of dual threat. And like I said earlier, they didn't ask him to do too much. It was a lot of stuff behind the line of scrimmage, out to the, the flats, out to the boundaries, not really taking many risks with a guy who hasn't really seen that much live play. But from what I did see of Bear Bachmeier, I understand why they gave a guy with the number 47 the starting role, because he looked damn good. And I know, I want to see it against tougher competition, but if I'm a BYU fan, feeling really good about Bear Bachmeier, and that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah. Kobe dropping on us that per Oklahoma State's 24/7 reporter, that apparently Oklahoma State's quarterback could be in line to be back for the Arizona game this season, which I honestly, like, obviously, like, that's like the running joke, like, oh well, just play Arizona and you'll get healthy. I think everyone probably feels that way about their program to an extent, but I don't know if that's really that striking that much fear into my heart, unless their backup quarterback is just straight up atrocious. Like, coming in cold like that against a pretty decent team, in my opinion, that Arizona could end up being. Like, I'm not sure that that's all that works all that well for them, and just in terms of, like, he's had zero chance to actually rev up to the level of speed and competition yet for this season. So I don't know, that could potentially benefit Arizona. We'll see. Sam drops that Dampier is better than Jalen Daniels, which I'm not sure I agree with yet, but I'm already ready to say that I was maybe a little bit wrong about Devin Dampier. And shout out an Arizona guy in Devin Dampier. But you, just like you, Kevin, I got UCF last, just like I had in my preseason poll. UCF, not good. Cool logo, though, that I put on there. And yeah, I mean, they beat Jacksonville State who just lost their coach and their entire staff and Rich Rodriguez.
Woo!
By 7 points.
Wow.
Really, really bad stuff from UCF, and definitely a game that Arizona needs to win this season. But those are my power rankings. Those are Kevin's power rankings. We're generally around the same spots. Kevin thinks the Wildcats are better than the Sun Devils.
Never said it. They played better, though. They definitely played better.
The Wildcats are better than the Sun Devils, and we'll be seeing that on the field come Friday after Thanksgiving this season, according to my guy Kevin Thomas, who guarantees an Arizona Wildcats W in the Territorial Cup.
Pump the brakes.
But in all seriousness, that is only our week 1 power rankings. We'll be doing this every week on Tuesdays, and we're excited to be doing this all season long. Drop what you guys think that we got right, what we maybe got wrong here in the chat. Anything egregious, any more hot takes, because we're going to be getting into some hot takes here for our first edition of our hot take segment that we're going to be doing with our fans here, Kevin. In allowing them to kind of just get some things off their chest all season long. So make sure you guys respond to the next tweet for that if you want to get involved and get your hot take on the show here on screen. But we'll be talking about all that and more on the other side of this break here. You're watching the AZ Wildcats podcast.
It was Labor Day weekend this past weekend, and so many places were closed. They weren't there for you when you needed them most, but you know who was there for you always and will forever will be? Circle K and that Inner Circle Rewards program. I'm a part of it. Damon's a part of it. When you sign up, not now, but right now, it takes less than 2 minutes. By the time I'm done reading the ad, you could already be a member and you could be saving 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups, 3 cents off per gallon on every single fill-up after that until you graduate into that 5 cents off per gallon range. And who doesn't want to save money on gas? Facts. And then you're not, if maybe you have an electric car or something, Circle K is still the thirst stop for you. They have snacks, they have drinks, they have lottery, they have nicotine, they have beer, they have energy drinks, they got food, they got cold food, they got hot food, they got slushies, they got coffee. They have it all at Circle K, and you can save by joining the Inner Circle for free today by downloading the Circle K app. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for more details.
Circle K, nothing like it, and nothing like the Game Time app when you're trying to buy some last minute tickets, Kevin, because if you're a procrastinator like myself, like Kevin, there's nothing better than waiting until the last minute to get something done that you needed to get done the entire time. But Game Time's almost gonna incentivize that, Kevin, because they want you to wait until the last minute for your tickets. If you wait until the last minute, you're going to get the cheapest price available on those tickets. So, with NCAA football starting up, with NFL starting up, all types of tickets are going to be flying off the shelves, and there's only one place to buy those tickets, and it's on gametime.co, or download the free Game Time app today and sign up. Use our promo code of PHNX, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Kevin, I know my favorite aspect of the Game Time app is you can see where your seat is before you make a purchase that you regret.
It's the best.
Where you show up and there's like a obstructed view pillar in your seat and you had no idea about it. Is that where you're at? What other feature is on Game Time that you think is just unbelievable?
I would name more, but I will say like that is for sure my favorite. Like before I found Game Time, I used to find my ticket, find my seat, find my section, and then I would go to like a third-party site and see by chance if anybody had posted a photo from the same section that I was potentially going to buy a seat in. That's like a half an hour process, folks. Game Time took all that hassle out of the equation
right there
for
in front
me.
of your face.
And I'm so thankful for it. Yeah,
they have their all-in pricing as well, so you're not going to get hit with a bunch of ticket fees in your cart when you're checking out, where you're like, well, that just doubled the ticket price. Game Time is the best, guys. They incentivize procrastinators. They have the cheapest ticket prices available, and they have it for every event that you could possibly want, whether it's like a live sporting event, a comedy show, a concert, you name it. Game Time has it. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. Create an account. Use our promo code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. What time is it, Kevin?
Game Time. A roof. Now, Damon.
Sam says here in the chat, Kevin, that I'm going to get you killed with this type of talk. That's the plan. I'm trying to listen.
He's like, I want to solo host this puppy.
No, it's not that. I feel like, and I'm not to say that like I'm above you in our hierarchy, because I don't feel that way at all, but I feel like, captain of this ship in terms of like, I'm going to go down swinging against the ASU fans when I need to. And I've already like put my hands up. You know this about me, Kevin. And I've said to myself, pretty much the only way that makes sense for me to leave God's green earth is an ASU fan taking a joke that I made way too seriously, finding where I live, and potentially taking me out. And I think I'm just sitting here being like, maybe Kevin needs to go down with the ship. Like maybe this is like a twofer situation. This is like a duos thing that we do together. Like two hosts give everything for their football team.
I love where you're coming from, Damon. Someone's got to continue the legacy of this great show, though. So maybe
one person gets maimed but makes it, and then like
I'll take the maiming,
and then you take this podcast to the freaking moon.
Yeah, I'll take the maiming for the sake of the game, and every podcast will be from Damon's Doghouse. That's where we're coming from. Every podcast,
you use this exposure to really truly make this podcast take off. And one way you guys can help this podcast take off, please leave a like on this video.
Special.
Helps us out so much. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. We're on our road to 50K. And of course, subscribe to us on audio platforms as well, because even if you're not listening to the audio podcast, still helps me and my guy Kevin out a lot if you can just rate, review, subscribe on all of those applications. So yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not trying to get Kevin killed. I'm just saying that, like, listen, I'm usually the ASU hating guy. If Kevin's going to come out here with some ASU hating takes, I just want the people to see. I just want to be like, I'm not the only one on this mountain.
That's actually a great point.
I've been standing at the top of this mountain forever. And look who comes strolling up. Old Kevin Thomas just finished his hike. He's at the summit of the mountain, and we're going crazy.
Look, I'm like Damon's like the guy, the Jon Snow gif where he's just slicing through the crowd of people.
And I'll never log off.
He's shouting and stuff, and I'm just behind him, and I'm like, yeah, and another thing. Yeah. and they went 1 for 10 on third downs.
Hold me back.
Yeah. And then they're like, what about that guy? And I'm like, who? You that guy? Nah, not me. I didn't say nothing.
Yeah, shut up.
Yeah, shut up back there.
Shut up, Randy.
But yeah, Damon, before we get into this hot take segment, I don't think that there's any better way to do it than to get into Max's question of, is UCF going to be relegated eventually? Feels like they should. And I don't think UCF's going to be relegated eventually, but we should bring relegation to these conferences. The more that you would get multiple conferences that are becoming like the premier football conferences, relegate some teams out of there.
Dude, it would be unreal.
UCF, get into the damn Sun Belt. Get the hell out of here.
What I will say, as a program, Kevin, its floors are about as low as they possibly can get. And we know that as Arizona fans.
Yeah.
I think people somewhat overrate how bad Arizona football is.
Correct.
Especially in Tucson in particular. Like, you guys, everybody who's in this chat most likely went to U of A, or, their parents did. Like, you guys, everyone knows their whole lives has heard, U of A sucks at football, right? When in reality, typically pretty average, with some really good seasons here and there and some pretty bad seasons as well here and there. But usually a pretty middle of the pack type of team. But everybody's like, oh, the worst, garbage.
Basketball school.
This program couldn't be worse if they tried. But I will say, as a program whose floors get about as low gets in terms of 4-8 and losing 7 of your 8 final games, 24-game losing streak or whatever it was, 1-11, 0-6 in the COVID season, like we would be getting relegated. And I don't know if how that climb up necessarily looks for a team that is on the downturn like that. So while it would be electric, I don't know if it's the best thing for us.
Great point. Very self-aware point there. But hey, you know this better than anybody else. As a fan of club sport and as a fan of a sport that has relegation, like European football, as yourself, Damon, sometimes all it takes is a damn club legend to get you back up to where you need to be. And there's no better club legend than Noah Fifita, right? So I'm with it, albeit if it might not be all the more positive for us. And we're going to get into some more hot takes, shall we, right now, Damon, on the AZ Wildcats
any
podcast.
Of this stuff about this boxing match the JR is trying to put on between me and you versus the Sun Devils guys? Here's where I'm at with it, JR, and I don't know if you knew this. Eric Ruby is a bit of a combat sports guy. He happens to have a black belt, and like just the way he talks about it seems pretty legit. I've never actually seen him fight.
I've seen
a younger video, but I've never seen him recently. I don't know that those are problems that we want to have necessarily. As big of a goober as Eric Ruby is, he's also got a bit of a size advantage on both of us, Kevin. Like he's pretty tall, stocky dude.
And that's the thing, Damon, is that
I got Totri all day though.
I was about to say that's the thing.
Let's do it.
That's the thing is that
Damon versus Totri, bro.
When you bring this up, I love that. That's how you know me and Damon are a real team. Because he said he didn't say let's do this. I got Totri. He said, I don't want to do this because, Eric's dangerous. And, when you're playing pickup basketball and you just happen to be the biggest guy around, you get matched up with the 7-foot center who's actually a basketball player. That's me and Eric in this situation.
Yeah.
I get matched up with Eric just because I'm a bigger stature than Damon.
Yeah.
And me and Eric are of similar stature. He's a lot more like in physical shape than I am.
He's a little taller than you too, I think.
Yeah. But like, he's whooping my ass, Chad. Fact. And I'm gonna go down swinging if I had to go to scrap with Eric. But
Totri's
he's
in better
my
shape
ass.
than me. I'll give him that. Totri's in better shape than me.
Totri's in great shape.
I need some training. I need some training for sure. But I don't know. I'm all for it. Like, let's do it for charity. Let's do it for Big Brothers Big Sisters of America, Kevin.
Wow.
Because it's Big Brothers Big Sisters of America month right here on PHNX Sports at All-City Network in general. And guys, what better way to give back than the Big Brothers Big Sisters Association of America, Kevin?
There is no better way to do it. I know our guy Saul Bookman is a huge proponent of Big Brothers Big Sisters, and like I've never been a big myself, but I do know the importance that being a big could play on someone who is like a sibling in that way. Big brothers and big sisters, right? So it could change the world. It can change a person's world is what I'm trying to say. We were talking earlier about how we're doing hot takes, right? And part of the reason we're doing hot takes is because people they let off takes on Twitter because they don't have a group chat of friends to give the take to. Right? And that's real for a lot of people. The people just need friends. So if you can be a big brother or a big sister to someone who just needs an ear or a friend to have in their life, that could be all the difference. So join Big Brothers Big Sisters today. Not now, but right now.
As Kobe says, we're putting a fight on for the kids. We're doing it for the kids.
This is like it's like an episode of It's Always Sunny. You know what I mean? But let's get into these hot takes.
Don't do this at home, kids, but you are going to get all the money and proceeds from this. But Kevin, you're right. We do have some hot takes to get to. So without further ado.
Let's go! It's Hot Take Tuesday. I'm super fired up. Yeah. It's Hot Take Tuesday. Technically Monday because I asked these questions on a Monday, chat. Let's get to our first hot take coming to us from Frederick Thompson at Bear Wild Zona. Brennan needs to be given more time to develop this program. The improvement is immense.
I love the confidence, Frederick. I don't know if I'm there yet after one game, but I definitely loved what I saw a lot more than what I saw from last season, and that seems obvious. So, that's what hot takes are all about, Kevin. Is going a little bit further than maybe the conventional response would be.
It's a bit premature to be like, give him a lifetime contract, which I know is not exactly what he said. But defeating Hawaii and people being like, he needs more time. I don't know about all that, but that is the spirit of this segment, is letting off these hot takes. And I do think that Brent Brennan, if he can continue this level of success coming into this season, has certainly earned another year to try to, get this ship a little bit further towards the goal line, so to speak.
That was a little bit of a feet wetter there, Kevin.
Yeah.
We're going to take the remainder of these hot takes into overtime here on the AZ Wildcats podcast.
Overtime,
as
hot
we round
takes.
out the remainder of these hot takes here. Let's get into hot take number 2.
At Bear Down, this is Bear Down beat MM at Go for the W. We got competing mascots here. I think we may be going bowling this season. I can't believe we have receivers out, and then the ones that played were really well. There's some real competition out there. Thank you, Go for the W, as you throw the who do you think you are? I am gif in that tweet as well.
I do love the comment there about guys like Isaiah Mizell, Brandon Phelps, Gio Richardson stepping up in moments when they got the opportunity to get some playing time in Chris Hunter and Chris Hudson's absence, which that's going to be a real tongue twister all season long. But I think you got to love the competition there at receiver, the depth. That being said, I also I agree. I think we are going bowling this season. I think I'm going to stick with my preseason prediction of 6 wins. Not get too ahead of my skis here, Kevin, but I think 6-6 is 7-5 very much in the cards for this program.
I'm with you. And I think that what Arizona has shown is that they're of the level of a team that can go bowling, right? And I think that the second half of that hot take really wasn't even that hot at all, right? You have success in the wide receiver room with your maybe top 2 guys not even suiting up for the night. And I think that is a huge W if you're Arizona, right? The receiving core looked at all the part of the depth that you were advertised it had, coming into this season, as Damon is mind blown about the double agent thing going on in the chat. Yeah, Damon. I think that Arizona does go bowling. I think the receiving room is just as deep as we think that it is, and I hope that it's just as versatile as we think that it is, Damon. Moving on to our next hot take. Russell at Suns, a lot of numbers. Receivers and running backs combined for 7,000 all-purpose yards, while Fifita throws for 3,000 passing yards. I kind of I certainly like the Fifita aspect of it all. I think that he's been, let me double check the exact numbers, but he's been flirting around that 3K number for 2 years now.
Yeah, he could have gotten it last year if the offense wasn't horrific.
And so I feel like the 3,000 for Fifita is likely to, I use the word layup because he would be on pace to do such a thing. But I feel like if that is the way the offense is going to be oriented, if you're going to do a heavier pass split than you are to a run play calling split, then I feel like Noah Fifita should have no problem reaching that 3K yard marker.
29.58 yards for Fifita last season in a disaster season. And then in the year before, obviously, he didn't play the entirety of the games. He had 28.69 in 2023. And that was with playing 3 less games, essentially, than a full season.
Yeah, I'm with you. So I think, Russell, the hot take, Noah Fifita does definitely smash that 3,000 yard mark this season. Damon, what do you say about that 7,000 all-purpose yards number that Russell had in the first half of this year? Hot take.
Yeah, that one's a little bit tougher. I mean, obviously, I'm looking here at the particular rushing and receiving stats from last season. I know last season's a bad barometer, but 3,000 receiving yards last season and 1,200 rushing yards puts you at 4,200. Far cry from 7,000. A far cry from 7,000. I think that seems like a almost unattainable number for me, although I do think the running game is going to be just so much better than it was last season. Only 1,200 rushing yards last season is pitiful.
Yeah, that will not be the same this year.
Yeah. Let's get like 2,500 and 3,000 and let's call it a day.
I'm good.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly reasonable and good enough for this football team. But I love it, Russell. That's what the hot takes are all about.
Let them fly. Last but not least, I hopped in on the fun and I said Arizona can hang with anybody in the Big 12, Sun Devils included, and will make a bowl game 100 emoji. My reasoning for this,
it has to be true.
I mean, if you throw the 100 emoji on there,
fact.
Community note, be damned. And I feel like, Damon, when I looked at this Big 12 the week that was, it did cement to me that while some teams didn't look as strong as other teams, there were some teams we thought were going to be bad that looked okay or good, right? In the case of Utah. And it makes me feel as though the parity is super real in the Big 12. We've talked about it all off season. It seems like it's going to be that way throughout the entire season. Some teams that you think are going to be elite are just never going to be the world beaters because of the high level of competition in this conference, which tells me that if Arizona can have the high level of effort and execution that they had against Hawaii, they truly can hang in a game one-off with anybody in the Big 12 this season. And
there's just no team in the Big 12 that you sit there, look at, and think to yourself, man, what a juggernaut. Like
correct.
That team is just going to beat the brakes off of everybody. And that's what makes this conference special, really, because I think there's a lot of good teams, but there's not that upper echelon of like truly special team.
I totally agree.
And so that's where I feel that Arizona is like well set up in the way that they're somewhat in that group of teams that are good. I'm not saying they're in the top half. I think they're in the bottom half of that group, but I just think that they, as you say, Kevin, they can compete with essentially everybody. That's not to say they will, but I think that they can, right?
Yeah, they can compete with everybody. And in the first half of my message, they will go bowling. Fact.
Yes. Here's one for you that I almost tweeted, but I honestly forgot. Maybe you could call me chicken and out, but I'll put it on. I'll put it live on air for the people right now. Quincy Craig leads this running back room in all-purpose yards. So combined receiving, combined rushing. I'm not going to count the return game side of things because I think him or Mahdi could potentially see some touches back there. But I think after 1 week, I'm ready to say Quincy Craig is like not really like the bell cow. I think Kedrick Reesano is still like the true ground component that they're going to lean on, especially like in the red zone and stuff. Like Reesano will have the most touchdowns. But I just think that Craig is going to get so much playing time in the middle portions of the field that he's going to put together a lot of really solid games. So I'm going to go with Quincy Craig leading the running back room in rushing plus receiving yards as my hot take. Before we get out of here, Kevin, there was, John Wilner released his kind of updated Big 12 power rankings. He had some good things to say about the Arizona Wildcats. He then did some bowl game predictions. And he had the Arizona Wildcats making a bowl game after 1 week, kind of led off his article about it and basically just was saying that this team looks a lot different than it did last season. This is a team that looks ready to compete. Even though Fifita didn't really need to show an immense performance in week one, he had a good enough game where he showed some flashes of the season in 2023 that he had. They also didn't need to, completely flush out the playbook to beat a decent Hawaii team, which I think is a good sign as well. And they beat them by a handily margin. So all of it, to say, I think that you're catching a little bit more national attention as well. Hey, this program is on the ups and is a genuinely decent team in 2025. And Wilner predicts that the Wildcats will be in the LA Bowl, Kevin, which has been, I know the last couple of years, it's been the LA Bowl hosted by Gronk, right?
I think so.
Is that still the case? I mean, that would be incredible if the LA Bowl, yes, hosted by Gronk, is still in 2025, what we're going with here. So, honestly, has a bowl game ever, is that the best bowl game? That would be electric.
I'm thinking about it and
hosted by Gronk, the boys are in driving distance of Los Angeles.
Take me there.
Me and Kevin are going to go meet Rob Gronkowski and get him on this fine program for all the fine people at home.
And we're going to shotgun a beer with him because that's just how we get down. Fact. Dude,
Love
fact. It. And yeah, Damon,
I think I could beat current 2025 Gronk in a shotgun.
Give me a weekend of prep. I got him. Fact.
How old is Gronk, dude?
He's probably younger than we think.
He is.
Because he probably retired way earlier than he ever would have if he didn't get hit so much.
You can go ahead and give me a guess.
Probably 35, 36.
36. Yep, on the money, 36. He probably can still shotgun at a pretty high level.
Yeah, and he's an animal. The one beer to Gronk is 3.
Alex says
a third. Whatever, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, Alex says Mountain West champ also goes to the LA Bowl. His guess is Colorado State. That'd be electric.
That would be electric.
Mountain West champ versus U of A.
Arizona Hawaii rematch. You never know.
Arizona UNLV, Arizona Boise State. I'm loving it.
I fancy all the matchups there.
Take me to LA. Bury me in LA, Kevin. That's what I always say. Appreciate everybody for being here today on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Was there anything else before you wanted to mention before we got out of here, Kevin?
No, I think most of it we can talk about tomorrow. Nothing too pressing. I did want to mention Jasleen Green. Becky Burke keeps building, secures a 2026 4-star guard. Jasleen Green, I believe, let me double check my notes here. Yeah, the number 59 ranked player in the class of 2026. And Becky Burke has even yet to take the court. I think that is a huge W for the women's basketball program at Arizona. And then you also had Cam Williams taking an official visit to SMU this past weekend. We'll have more on that as we have it. And then, yeah, I think that's it. Adia Barnes posted a TikTok that we don't need to talk about, but she posted a TikTok about her. It was her in her locker room, and she was recording herself, and it was like, POV, your players won't stop complaining after a long practice. And it was like just all her players complaining about conditioning. And I'm like, that's your fault. This is all you. Anyway, it was just ridiculous.
Classic Adia, never change.
Yeah, no, it can never be her fault. It's always someone else's fault, right? So yeah, continue.
Hey, we moved on to bigger and better things. Becky things, if you will.
One's recruiting and one's TikToking, and that's the difference here.
Sure. I love it. Another edition of the AZ Wildcats podcast for you on a Tuesday. Kevin, that's going to do it for us today. That's actually going to do it for us tomorrow as well, as we are not going to be having a Wednesday episode because we do not do Wednesday episodes during the football season.
I'm going to miss you, Chet.
We'll miss you severely, deeply. I will be getting the takes off in the meantime at Damon Dog. So will Kevin at Kevo Posts.
I guess I'll be defending myself for my power rankings over the next 24 hours.
Because we're going to be posting these power rankings, and Kevin has to Jon Snow gif it like I usually am. That's okay, man. Hey, Kevin, guess what? That's my bat signal, brother. Someone gets too nasty, you call in the big guns. And it's time. And by the big guns, multiple.
The big dogs.
I mean yours truly and Erica Day.
Wow.
And we go to war with the Arizona State fans, but that's future Kevin and Damon problems.
Breaking case of emergency is bringing in Erica Day on an
100%. Literally 100%.
I witnessed her argue with somebody on the phone the other day, live in person. Woo.
You don't want that smoke.
Nobody.
You don't want that smoke for 1 second.
Believe me, do not play with that woman. Do not play with her at all. No,
Like I said, Kevin, it gets too nasty. We'll call in the big guns, but keep it monitored on our social channels later today. We'll be getting that tweet out, PHNX_Wildcats, where Kevin will be getting maybe roasted by Arizona State fans, depending on if they catch wind of it or not. But great show today. Big 12 power rankings. Who's at the top? Who do you think should have been number one? If you disagree with me and Kevin, drop it in the chat after the show is over. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, subscribe on audio, rate and review. Follow me and Kevin, follow PHNX_Wildcats, and we'll catch you next time on the AZ Wildcats pod. Until then, peace out, bear down.
And go Cats, NAU. Hell of a program you got over there.
We all silly like the mayor.